A common concern with such an expensive hobby as marine reef keeping is that you might get bored and pack it in after the initial excitement of setting up has subsided. So today I'll show you what life as a long-term reef keeper is like by talking you through how my tank has got on over the last 12 months. And if it's your first time here and you want a new reefing video every week, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out when I upload. Here is my tank then exactly 12 months ago on the 31st of December 2020. At this stage it was almost 3 years old, so it was well established and settled, and so you'd be forgiven for thinking there's not much to do but watch it grow. And while, as we'll discover today, that is not the case, growth alone is incredibly satisfying. This strawberry shortcake aquapora took 2 years to do anything at all before it finally started to grow. At the start of the year it had been in my care for 3 years across 2 tanks and looked like this. By March it had showed signs that it was finally putting its energy into growth, both upwards as well as basing out. And by the end of the year it had taken off to become the huge colony it is now. And that's despite me trimming it back when it started to grow into its neighbours. Another example is this Pac-Man Herlock aquapora. Now this started growing very quickly as soon as it went into my tank. 2 months later in March it had roughly doubled in size and was starting to show its growth pattern with branches sprouting out. Another 2 months later and it had doubled in size again, and that exponential growth continued to today, and it is now one of my biggest colonies despite being only 13 months old. But if all corals were that easy to keep, life would be boring. And this yellow and green aquapora frag has done nothing but base out in the 18 months I've had it, except for the last 2 months when it's finally started to shoot up tiny branches. And if you thought that coral was only basing out, check out this acro I bought at the same time. It has done nothing but base out since I got it, so I'm waiting with bated breath to see how it finally looks when it starts to branch out. And because of the varying success you have with growth in a reef tank, there is always something else to try to promote improved health, colour and growth. And while it's frustrating when things don't go as you want, that challenge is what makes the hobby so interesting. And it makes it even more satisfying when things do go well. One great example of that is this war paint Scotty. When I bought it 18 months ago, it looked like this, aka pretty much at death's door. But with a bit of TLC and regular feeding, it has now completely recovered to the beauty it is today. Incidentally, Scotties make great recovery projects as all they need is decent water quality and regular feeding. As well as recovering individual corals, I've been busy trying out various methods on my tank. I've tried 3 methods for keeping my phosphate down, none of which have proved to be the right solution for me yet, as well as experimenting with dosing trace elements either individually or in groups, again none of which were successful for me. And of course there is equipment. I seem to spend my life chasing perfection in lights, which has led me to change my lighting again this year, and I'm still not 100% happy with it, so I'll probably change again soon. Away from lights, the hobby is now in a period of real progress and development on the technology front, so I now have equipment to automatically measure my alkalinity, pH and salinity, all of which gives you a really interesting insight into how your tank runs, and there's always another exciting development around the corner to satisfy the gear junkie in you. However, this hobby is of course not all red wine and roses, and I have lost a few fish in the last 12 months. I had a Midas Blenny die of natural causes at around his average life expectancy of 3 to 4 years old, as well as a Makoska's wrasse and a Naoko wrasse who were bullied to death by my other fish before I could rescue them. And finally I lost a pair of flame dragonets after the female became pregnant and couldn't shed her eggs. Now losing 4 fish in a year is a lot more than I'd like, but it is the sad reality of keeping marine fish. But the silver lining is that it teaches you more about caring for these fish, and of course it frees up space for more new fish. Now before you call the RSPCA on me, I should make it clear that I do everything I can to keep my fish alive and healthy, and that I'm not saying it's a good thing when they sometimes die. All I'm saying is you need to make lemonade when life serves you lemons. And the new fish I've added are my characterful starry algae bunny, who helps keep algae at bay, a mandarin dragonet, which is a fish I've always wanted to challenge myself with, and another fish that forms firmly in that category, this rather stunning leopard wrasse. The mandarin wrasse are great examples of fishes I wouldn't have tried 5 years ago, but that I now feel more confident caring for, having built up years of experience. And while fish choices are seemingly endless, there are countless other quirky animals to keep you interested. And I've bought my first ever sea cucumber as recently as a few months ago. Now, to be honest with you, they don't do an awful lot, but they are really cool little filter feeders and a great example of the discoveries you can make even many years into the hobby. Now, it is of course pretty common to look at your own tank critically, and I finally gave into my criticism 2 months ago and removed about 20 or 30% of my corals and rockscape. I did so because I wasn't happy with the colours I'd chosen and to give me a challenge of creating a more special aquarium. So even as this tank approaches its 4th birthday, it is still nowhere near complete. And that really is the beauty of this hobby. It's all about the journey, not the destination, and the journey never ends. So now I get to buy all new coral frags and watch them steadily grow out all over again. And the ultimate example of the never-ending journey is a serious aquarist condition called multiple tank syndrome, which I've developed because I am now well and truly balls deep in the hobby. I added a second tank to my collection in April of this year because my main tank is growing out too much and I need somewhere to keep frags of my corals before I sell them. It's also allowed me to keep some cool inverts that would get eaten in my main tank, which is again a great extension of the journey. Now, I've been keeping reef tanks for a little over 7 years and I've still learnt an absolute ton in the last 12 months. And as a result, my tank has never looked better. I have some truly spectacular corals, some beautiful and characterful fish, as well as a handful of quirky inverts. And yet I still have so much to gain from the hobby that I don't even feel like I'm halfway there. And when I do finally get to the end of my journey, all that means is it'll be time for another upgrade. So there you have it, a full year in the life of my reef tank. Now, I can only scratch the surface in a small video like this, so let me know if you've got any questions in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe for future updates. And until next time, happy reefing.